Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to the channel. Well, it's another crazy volatile day in the market, but I think this volatility is creating some pretty decent opportunity, and one sector in particular is the oil sector and with these oil stocks. In this video, I want to tell you why I am bullish on this sector long term, and then I'm going to show you the ones that I like the most right now. Now, if you're new to my channel, I have been trading and investing for over 20 years, and in each video I will show you trades that I see setting up right now. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future trading and investing ideas. And also, if you would like to support the channel and become part of our Patreon community and see what we are buying and selling in real time for a measly $10 a month, that link is in the description. All right, well, before I get into those charts, I want to talk about this article so you can understand a little bit of where I am coming from. This article was on CNN Business before the bell, and it says, "Is the oil market broken?" And if we scroll down, it says, a version of this story first appeared in CNN Business before the bell newsletter. Not a subscriber? You can sign up right here. All right, sorry about that. I guess I will read anything on the teleprompter just like Ron Burgundy, but the article really says that are the supply-demand fundamentals that have governed oil markets for decades coming unstuck? In normal times, a surge in demand and rising prices would trigger supply increases, but as the past week has shown, these aren't normal times. Just 2 days ago, after the Biden administration urged swift action to move towards a low-carbon economy, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan appealed to OPEC to increase oil production in order to curb rising gasoline prices. So, that glaring contradiction highlights an uncomfortable fact. The world still needs oil. But there is growing pressure on major oil companies to ditch fossil fuels, and U.S. producers are laden with debt. And that is absolutely true. Every time I look at an oil company, I cannot believe how much debt these guys have. That's basically the main reason that scares me away from most of them. But it goes on to say that leaves Saudi Arabia, Russia, and their OPEC alliance, which is taking a cautious approach and slowly unwinding production cuts despite a 60% surge in the price of Brent crude over the past year. If you've been following the oil markets, you know that this is unusual. Usually when the price of oil goes up, these guys are tripping over each other to put out more oil so they can take advantage of those higher prices. And this says that means supply could remain tight over the next coming months. So that is bullish for oil and oil producers. Now, this is the important part in the article. It says, last year, global investment in oil and gas field development fell to around $348 billion, down from a peak of $740 billion in 2014, according to analysts at Morgan Stanley. They estimate that the lack of investment at public companies will start to drive their productions into a deficit from 2024 and beyond. And I actually think that it's probably going to be before that if things continue the way they are. The way I understand it, especially like these shale wells, they lose about 50% of their production after the first year, and the conventional oil wells, they lose about 6 to 8% a year. So that's why new investment is so important. You have to constantly be drilling for new wells so you can keep that production up, because year after year the production falls, and if new investment does not come in to start new wells, then the supply will continue to fall and fall and fall. And this says that U.S. shale producers have also kept output relatively flat under pressure to return cash to shareholders following the past decade's spending sprees. So all these guys are really laden with debt, so that, of course, is not good. But it also says that remember, the Delta variant poses a risk to oil demand in the near term, but the global economy is still projected to grow 6% this year, expanding 4.9% next year, according to the International Monetary Fund. So I think the rumor of the Delta variant is what is pushing oil prices down right now. Plus, when you combine that, the oil stocks or I should say pushing, well, that's pushing oil prices down, but the oil stocks are really getting crushed because of that. And plus the oil stocks, at least a lot of them got a little ahead of themselves, so they are overdue for a pullback. But I am thinking that this pullback in oil has to be getting pretty close to being done, and some of these oil companies are getting back down towards more attractive valuations. But let's get over to the charts and let me show you the ones that I am liking the most right now. All right, so let's get started with the USO, and that is the oil ETF. And well, actually, before I get started, if you don't mind doing me a small favor and liking the smash button, hitting the like button, whatever you call it, and help me out with the YouTube algorithm, I would really appreciate it. But please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All this is just my opinion. Please make all of your own trading decisions. I mean, actually, when I get done with this look at the USO, I'm just going to show you a bunch of nice looking charts. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to go through them and look at the ones that you like the best and potentially make an investment in them if you are comfortable with it, because a lot of these are presenting some pretty good buying opportunities, but I'll let you decide which one you like the best. But first, starting off with this USO, I've had this support level on here for quite a while. It came down to it and reversed immediately. I kind of missed that bounce for the most part. But man, this thing rolled right back over and now has sliced through it. And actually, if you look at it today, this thing is reversing. I'm kind of missing it here. Let me go to the minute chart here. Yeah, this thing has been reversing ever since right around 10:30-ish, 10:45-ish. So this thing is finding a bottom without me. There is one that I really like. I haven't bought any yet. I'm a little leery to be taking new positions right now. I've just been adding to some of my long-term positions as the share price is coming down. But with how sketch the market has been, I'm really trying to, be really choosy on opening new positions, because if we do end up getting a big rollover in the market, I want to have as much cash as around as possible so I could take advantage. But the USO broke through this support level and, man, just kind of hanging around. We might get a reversal right back above it. If we get a reversal right back above this support level, I think we might have a short-term bottom in oil. But as long as oil is in this little range right here, I think it's going to be very difficult to trade the oil stocks. I think they're going to be extremely choppy, but I think once oil, the USO can break above about 51.50 or so and hold it, I think oil could be off to the races again. And I do think that's the most likely scenario. That's just my opinion, and I want to position myself a little bit more in at least one or two of these oil companies because I'm getting a second chance because these things are pulling back. And if you are bullish on oil like I am, you might want to start looking at some of these and take advantage of this pullback, because if oil continues to be constrained the way it is, we could be looking at a multi-year run for oil and oil stocks. But let's get into some of those stocks, and I'm going to start with the lowest price and work my way up. And the first one I want to talk about is GTE. This one has fallen all the way down to 45 cents a share. And if you guys don't like lower price stocks, just hang around for a couple more minutes. I'll get into the more expensive ones in just a few. But we can see this one has pulled back over 63% at the moment, and Gran Tierra Energy right now has a forward PE of right around 5. Their market cap's right around 180 million, so a very small company. But man, this thing has just had a very deep pullback after a nice run. So if you wanted to get into GTE, you have another chance of getting, because this thing has pulled back substantially, and a lot of these have been in long downtrends. So usually when a stock goes into a long downtrend, eventually you get that rebound. So I think not only could this be a great long-term add if you're looking at oil companies, I think a lot of these stocks, as far as their charts are looking, these are in great swing trading positions right now. But let's get to the next one. I don't want this to drag on too long. The next one is REI. REI has pulled all the way back to $1.85, pulling back from a high of right around $3.40 or so. So it's pulled back about 45%. It is slicing through that 200, and that's what I'm noticing with a lot of these. The intensity of the sell-off is really starting to pick up, and they are slicing through major moving averages. A lot of these major moving averages aren't even offering a little bit of support for these things. These things are just cutting through them, but that usually tells me that you're probably gonna get a little bit more downside than a fast reaction move up. So I'm like licking my chops on these for a potential swing trade on a bunch of them, and adding one or two of them to my long-term portfolio. But REI looks like this one should be ready for, at a minimum, a bounce in a few days or so. Who knows how long it'll take, but man, it's getting pretty long in the tooth as far as the downtrend goes. Next one is WTI. This one is getting hammered. I own a little bit of this in one of my portfolios. I'm in this one really cheap, so I'm still up in it, but I'm getting pretty close, and this thing has really rolled over. I do plan on holding this one for a while. I plan on holding this one for the long term, but I might end up adding to this one. And man, this thing came down to that 200 period simple moving average and just continued rolling over. WTI has a market cap around I think 425 million and a PE right around 8. And of course, they are profitable. I think all the stocks on this list are EPS profitable, or are profitable, I should say. And man, they all have like PEs under 10. So I mean, a lot of them are getting pretty cheap. And if oil the conditions for oil are as favorable as I am thinking, that PE is getting pretty attractive in some of these. Next one I want to talk about is SWN. This one is also one that I own. I'm in this one, I think under $3 as well. So I'm still up in this one, even though it is pulling back. I thought it was going to have some more support once it pulled back to this area, but it is not finding it so far. I expect it to break through it pretty easily. But this one is starting to get pretty attractive. SWN has a PE of around 4. And it's a bigger company. I think their market cap's like 2.8 billion, and of course they are profitable. But next one I want to show you is CRK. This one is just it is pulling back, but man, this thing has been in a long rounded bottom forever. I love looking at this chart. I just think that this one is going to eventually end up breaking through 650 or so and just holding it and taking off. Because if you look at this thing, it has been like mired in this range for a very, very long time. Going all the way back to 2016. It's had a couple of breakouts that didn't last very long. But I think once it does eventually break through this resistance area, actually, let me pull it back a little bit here. Once it does eventually break through that resistance area, I think it's going to be off to the races. So CRK is one I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I just really like that chart pattern. This company has a market cap of about 1.25 billion and a PE right around 5. So I mean, they are pretty cheap. And this, like I said, this thing just continues to go sideways. They are continuing to make money, so that valuation will continue to come down as long as they keep going sideways to down. Next one I want to talk about is CDEV. We go to, on the daily chart, I was just too far out. We can see CDEV has been pulling all the way back from about 750 and is now touching that 200 period simple moving average. I normally love buying stocks at the 200 period simple moving average, but we can see that most of these are, are not finding a whole lot of support there. But this one has pulled back almost 50%, and as we can see, we have support going all the way back that is also lining up with this 200 period simple moving average. So this could be a bottom on CDEV, especially if oil turns around. Next one I want to show you is, let's go to ESTE. There's ESTE. This one is pulling back sharply as well, slicing right through that 200 like it wasn't even there. And if we look at this pullback is almost 50% as well. So a lot of these things are having pretty big pullbacks. And this stock has a market cap of around 650 million and a PE right around 8. So they're getting pretty cheap. Next one I want to talk about is Talo. Talo is getting absolutely crushed. I've been watching this one forever. This thing has been pulling back from 19 all the way down to under $9 a share right now. So it's off more than 50%. I mean, just a huge pullback in Talo. So Talos Energy is one that I have on my watch list. Next one I want to show you is Marathon Oil, MRO. I've traded this one, seems like a ton of times in my life, going back years and years. And this one has a warm spot in my heart because I think I always made money on this one. And this one is hanging around a little bit better than the other ones. It's getting close to that 200 period simple moving average. It's in the middle of it's only about a 27% pullback, but this one is one of the better companies in the sector. You can see why it's holding up a little bit better than the other ones. So MRO has pulled back. I think if it gets close to that 200 period simple moving average. You also look at the support that is right there with it. I think this could be a decent area to maybe take a position in this stock or play a potential swing trade on a bounce for it. Okay, the next one I want to go into is SM. I've been watching this one for a while. This one has pulled back from around $27 a share all the way down to $15. It's right at that support level right there, and the 200 is right below it. And this has been almost a 45% pullback from the highs. So you can see that support area right there. A lot of these stocks are pulling back into the 200 and other support areas, so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some of these are getting really close to a bottom. I mean, they already look like they're getting close, but a lot of them are getting closer to these support areas. Next one I want to show you is PVAC. PVAC is having a battle right now with that 200 period simple moving average. It seems like every time it gets close to it, it wants to bounce, and of course that is a show of institutional support because they like to add to their positions near these major moving averages. But right now this thing has pulled back about 42% from the highs, so a nice attractive pullback in PVAC. PVAC has about a $240 million market cap and their PE is right around 4. So they are getting pretty cheap. The next one is CPE. CPE has sliced through that 200 like it wasn't even there, like some of them are doing, but that's not that big of a deal. A lot of times you'll see a stock kind of slice through it and they'll kind of hang below it for a couple of days, and they'll have a very sharp reaction move back up into it or through it. So I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking for in these. And this one has pulled back about 57%, so a decent pullback in Callon Petroleum. And they are worth about $1.3 billion, so they are a decent sized company, and their PE is also right around 4 as well. So I mean, some of these are getting really cheap right now. The next one is BCEI. Take a look at BCEI. This one is pushing through that 200 period simple moving average as well, and this one has been pulling back, and it is down about 37% from the peak. So man, just some perfect pullbacks in some of these stocks. You can see normally when they pull back, they get a decent reaction move up. Sometimes it'll take a few days once they slice through a major moving average to turn around, but eventually you end up getting at least a small one. But I expect these things to have some halfway decent sized moves up, jump up at least 20-25% at least once they finally bottom. Probably more than that, depending on how long these things keep going down. But BCEI looks really good. This one is my favorite, and I'm really itching to buy this one today, and I might end up doing it. Like I said before, I am a little leery to open up a new position. I've just kind of been adding to long-term positions, but man, this one is just screaming bounce to me right now. And if we go from peak to trough, this thing has pulled back about 63%. I think this thing could easily end up bouncing up into this trend line that I have drawn right around $50 a share, and that will be a very nice move up. I'm just kind of tempted, or I should say torn, whether I want to hold this long term or just play a swing out. This might be the one that I definitely hold for the long term because I really like this one. And the last one I want to show you is good old FANG. Diamondback Energy. And if we back this thing out, we can see this one is one of the stronger companies out there, and you can definitely see by the stock chart, but it has sliced through that 200 period simple moving average. This is a very good company, and as of right now, the pullback is about 35%. So from peak to trough, this is a pretty attractive looking pullback in a nice company. And if you were thinking about potentially adding some oil stocks to your portfolio, I think now is the time. If it's not now, it should be pretty soon, because I don't think this pullback is going to last forever. And if oil conditions end up remaining favorable, this might be the last great buying opportunity for quite a while. Okay everyone, that is all I have for this video, so I'm going to end it right there. But if you have any questions or comments on any of these stocks, or if you have any other ones you want me to take a look at, please leave it down there in the comments section. I will get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, take care everybody.